right, there you go. Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for being here today. My name is Crystal McCoy. I'm a public information officer for the Aurora, Colorado Police Department. Real briefly, before Chief Wilson provides you a brief about this very complex situation, I just want to remind everyone out there that there's a lot of information that's still coming in. Facts and circumstances as we know it right now could change, and if they do, we will let you know. We are prepared to talk about the incidents that happened today. And first, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Wilson with the Aurora Police Department, and we will take questions at the end.
Okay. First of all, I just want to thank you all for being here. And you know, this community went through a harrowing evening with a barrage of gunfire. And I want to let everyone know that there is no threat that is still existent. The suspect is in custody, and all of our officers are safe, thank God. So I want to start with that. For those of you that know, it was a mental health crisis that was going on throughout the day. And we have had contact with the suspect in the past, actually 24 times since June 24th. We have been at a call for service at this address. We have had mental health specialists and professionals with our crisis response team that have come out here, have actually done an M1 hold in the past and have been trying to help this individual with the crisis that he's experiencing. Unfortunately, last night, he escalated to the point where he was shooting at officers, putting their lives at risk as well as the rest of the community members. We did evacuate the apartment building that you can see behind us to ensure that no stray rounds were to strike anyone. I will let you know that we canvassed the area and found that no one else has been injured, and we do have one apartment complex that did have a bullet hole, but again, in that complex, no one was injured. We are going to be pursuing attempted murder charges on this suspect due to the fact of what transpired and the fact that the Bearcat that you can see behind me, that it was being assaulted with multiple rounds, which I think you've all received photos of. I'll just open it up to questions.
You say you all had contact with this suspect 24 times. Was that since June, or if you can kind of, you know, lay that out a little bit? Since
June 24th, we have had contact at this apartment with this subject. 24 times.
24 times,
yes.
Since June 24th.
Yes, I know it's a coincidence, but yes.
And I know you're tweeting out photos of it, but can you explain what happened to the Bearcat and why it's stuck over there?
Okay, so the sprinkler system was on. The ground was very soft, and we are going to provide photos of that so the community can see exactly what the situation was in. It was a very dangerous situation. There were 7 SWAT officers inside that Bearcat that were taking rifle rounds, and the windshield was actually starting to give way. Thank God it did not give full. It didn't enter. Otherwise, we would have had, I believe, tragedy on our hands.
So it was a rifle that he was using?
That's what I'm being told. Multiple different weapons were being shot at the officers, as well as the Bearcat was unable to retreat because it is literally stuck, and we'll send you those photos so you can see the situation.
In the last 24 contacts you've had, were you aware that this guy was armed?
There was several phone calls from the HOA and also neighbors that were concerned about his erratic behavior, and so we were always trying to come out, de-escalate the situation with him. We'd actually come out 3 times last night, starting around 7 o'clock in the evening, de-escalating each time as he would go back into his apartment, so we did not want to force a confrontation with him. Then he menaced our officers with a rifle and other neighbors, and that's when later in the evening he started firing weapons. We had negotiators trying to talk to him on the phone, and he would continually hang up, but we were trying to do everything we could to end this peacefully. Unfortunately, he does have minor injuries, but none of our officers were killed.
You say this was a mental health incident. If you're able to speak to any of the other reasons you all were called out here previous to today, whether all of those were, you know, also mental health situations, or whether it was just neighbors kind of calling about the suspect.
I think there was a multitude. Sometimes he would call us for help, and he wanted to talk to officers. Other times neighbors would call in. A few weeks ago, unfortunately, he was found to be walking without clothing in the neighborhood. So it's a very sad situation. That he's living with mental illness. But again, this was a dangerous situation for my officers and the community. And I know that just to the folks that, survived the evening with us, I want to appreciate you doing the shelter in place. I want to appreciate your patience as we clean up the scene today. And thank you for calling and letting us know this was happening.
Do you all know how many weapons were possibly inside of this apartment?
So we're writing a search warrant right now. So once that is signed by the judge, we'll be able to go in and find out exactly how much evidence is in there. I will let you know that I think you all remember that I have asked to join the critical incident response team of the 18th Judicial District. They're actually walking around here. They are taking the OIS portion of this call, so the officer involved shooting portion. They are doing that investigation. We will handle the criminal aspect of the attempt murder on my officers, as well as the Arapahoe County Sheriffs. And I just want to say we're very lucky that we're not having any more tragedy of funerals for officers. These 7 SWAT guys were put in a very, very bad situation, as well as my patrol officers earlier in the evening when they responded, not having all the tactical gear and this person being armed with a rifle. This was a very dangerous situation, and my officers acted heroically.
So what you said attempted murder charges, 7 counts, or are there more?
I believe that's what we're going to go with, but we are going to be charging attempted murder.
To kind of follow-up questions as to some of the information that you get released. I believe you said that the man was not wearing any clothing. Was that this morning or last night when you all got to the scene, or was that in a previous incident?
A previous incident, and I'm not sure how he was dressed last evening.
I can see kind of some damage to the wall of this apartment, it looks like. Was that an attempt to make contact with him? I guess, was that damage done by the Bearcat?
So they were trying to attempt to, he had sunshades and sheets and everything put up, and also a plywood so that we could not see into what was happening. We did use SWAT techniques by breaking down those barriers, as well as talking to him the whole time, asking him to come out. I watched the body-worn camera, and multiple times they said, you know, please stop shooting at officers, and made many, many pleas for him to just stop.
And I know there was also a concern of the suspicious device as well. So I know the shelter in place was lifted because we got the all clear,
Right.
And then it was put in place again.
Correct.
So can you tell me a little bit the concern about the device and what it ended up being?
Sure. So when officers went to do a protective sweep of the apartment to see if there were any other individuals that may be injured in there, or any other suspects that may have been in the apartment, they located what they first thought was an IED. The Arapahoe Bomb Squad, who's amazing, came out and they said that it was a hoax device, and so it was not able to explode, but it was made to look as though it was real.
Was he threatening members of the public, or was he just threatening officers, or what was the threat?
My information was that for several weeks he has been threatening neighbors, voicemails, emails, to the point where our HOA had reached out to our crisis response team asking for them to help. They actually responded yesterday at 1 o'clock with a clinician, with a therapist from Aurora Mental Health with them. Tried to make contact with him again, as they had previously had contact with him, and he told them he did not want to interact with them whatsoever. So they de-escalated and left the scene.
I think that really, her question, I believe, really speaks to the officer's resistance and patience in this situation, with you all coming out twice in one day, and then this being a developing situation overnight that seems like it lasted upwards of 12 hours, if not longer. If you could just speak to that in general. You know, all of these officers are walking away uninjured this morning, but many of them had a very traumatizing night in a sense, and the main goal was to be able to kind of stop the threat and be able to keep people safe.
I can tell you that they absolutely were in harm's way, and they were absolutely in the ability for them to be hurt or killed was very high. I can tell you when I got here this morning, I saw a lot of faces of just what they had gone through. I actually spoke to one of my SWAT officers who's been on for 40 years, and he told me, he said, "Chief, this is the worst I've ever seen." So this was very traumatizing for my officers, and I want to applaud them. I also want to thank Arapahoe County and Douglas County for coming out as well. But I want to applaud them for their patience. And again, the suspect escalated the situation and caused the officer involved shooting.
2 more questions, please.
So yesterday I was also unfortunately at an officer involved shooting involving Aurora police officers. But no one was seriously hurt as far as I know, or killed or anything. No lives were lost. So the fact that this has happened in 2 days, but everything is, you know, no one has lost their life. I guess, any comment on that?
You know, I think the officers in this situation definitely de-escalated the situation, and then yesterday's officer-involved shooting, again, the 18th Judicial District is investigating that, so I can't comment on much, but I will say that we are in communication with that suspect's attorney, and hopefully he will turn himself in.
Lastly, since you said you all are in contact with the suspect's attorney, I'm assuming you all know who this person is.
We do.
You all have obviously had a lot of violence recently, whether that's just been officer-involved incidents or just incidents that have been happening in certain areas and neighborhoods. Obviously, sometimes when they involve officers, that calls for many officers to maybe be on leave. how are you all just dealing with being able to respond to all of these calls while officers are still dealing with officer-involved situations and them having to take some needed time off during those just to see how they play out?
Yeah, I can tell you that obviously our police department and then our neighboring agencies really try to help each other out. And I know that if we come to a point where we are at critical staffing, I know that they'll step up and help us out. But yeah, we definitely have to have these officers have downtime. And I think just the rise in violence you've seen across the nation, it's not just the metro area or Aurora specifically.
Okay, thank you everyone. I will follow up with some additional information and news release a little bit later today, not only on this incident, but prior incidents to the best that we can. Thank you again for being here, and please call us if you have any questions.
Thank
All right.
you all so much.
Thanks,
We
guys. Oh,
appreciate
I
it.
can't walk away. I'm stuck.
Start on the scene. Okay.